Welcome to the Wellness in a Chaotic World podcast. I'm your host, Cheryl Davis. Before we dive in, I wanted to note that as a health and wellness coach, I can support you in making sustainable lifestyle changes, tuning into your own wisdom, and building habits that align with your values and vision for your well being. I don't prescribe or treat health conditions, as I'm not a doctor or a mental health professional. Instead, I can walk alongside you as you create a healthier life on your terms. From time to time, I share conversations with guests. The views and opinions expressed by those guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect my views or those of anyone associated with wellness in a chaotic world. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and isn't a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always talk to your doctor or qualified mental health provider about any physical or mental health concerns. This is the Wellness in a Chaotic World podcast, a place where we're having conversations about what it really takes to live well in our unhealthy, chaotic world. I'm your host, Cheryl Davis. If you're beating yourself up over a bag of chips you ate in a stressed out frenzy, or you can't figure out how anyone manages to find the time to even think about wellness, you're in the right place. We talk about all of these things and more because, frankly, we don't talk to each other enough about what we're really up against every day. Let's change that right now. My guest today is Nancy Griffin, founder of Women Worth and Wellness. Nancy is a certified financial planner who has spent more than 30 years empowering women to steward their wealth with confidence. Her work combines financial expertise with a deep understanding of health, worthiness, and legacy. In our conversation, Nancy shares her journey from corporate leadership to creating a business that helps women navigate not just their finances, but their sense of self-worth and well-being. We talk about the mindset challenges about money, the importance of trusted advisors, and why health and wealth are inseparable when it comes to living our fullest lives. Hi, Nancy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Cheryl. I love your topic. I love your focus.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you today about how, finances are really a part of health and wellness. But let's start with who you are, what your work is, and how you got there. Give us your story.
Okay, I'll try to be brief. My first career was at Procter and Gamble in Canada, and I was one of the first female managers, which was fabulous. But of course, fast forward, the glass ceiling kicks in, and I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, so tried to leave several times. But of course, the VP was never going to be an entrepreneur, so he kept managing me back into the business. Well, one day I said enough and I busted out, and away we go. And I busted out and ran politically because, of course, there was an incident in the community that got my attention. And I had just been recruited to go on to our community board. So a whole new world. I mean, I really took a leap. And when you go from corporate to community, it is a whole new world. Because in a corporate setting, there's a structure, whereas in the community, everybody has a voice. That's the structure. So it was a huge learning experience. But the more I did in the community, the more there was to do. And after about 3 years of leading several initiatives, I thought, oh my goodness, I have to get a job out of this community. And so at Procter and Gamble, I'd done a lot of outplacement consulting, and I was recruited by an outplacement consultant to join their firm. Through that process, I met this woman who had just been outplaced. I think it was American Express, and of course was given a bagload of money, went to find an advisor to help her steward that wealth, ran into all sorts of roadblocks and men who just didn't understand. So she decided she'd be a wealth advisor. So, long story short, she got to know me and she said, Nancy, I don't know why you're choosing outplacement consulting for the next 20 years. I think you should look at wealth management. So, there you go, 180 degrees. I'd done a lot of career counseling at Procter and Gamble, and here was some complete unknown giving me career counseling about to go in a completely different direction, which I did. Met her boss. He said, "You've got to be licensed, so go, get your licenses and come back." And then away we go. So started in the wealth management business in 1992. And as most people know, what happens is you are an entrepreneur. You're hired by a big company. They do a lot of training, but you've got to go find your own clients. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to focus on women. not exclusively, but so started to do some marketing, and that is how it all came about in the wealth management industry.
So you said your focus was on women, not necessarily just women, but niching down. So when did you start Women Worth and Wellness?
I started in the business in 1992,
Mhm.
and as I started to meet with women, obviously you start to hear their stories. It's a one-on-one conversation or with a couple, and you hear what their reality is. And really, what I learned was that just about 100% of the time, these women are like the nurse practitioner in their families. They're expected to know about their parents' health, their own health, their kids' health, their staff health. And it's like they don't have time to learn about health, but this is a responsibility they have. So that's when I decided to focus on women's health by partnering with not-for-profit health-related organizations focusing on women's health. And that is when I decided, you know what, before we get to the money part, we need to focus on health. Because if we don't have our health, we're not going anywhere anytime soon. That always is the priority. That's always what shuts us down or stops us in our tracks. And the other thing, too, is if you are working with a wealth advisor who's put together a fabulous wealth plan for you, that person has anticipated potential health challenges like a critical illness, like a disability, like a premature death. And so insurance coverage for those possibilities is really a cornerstone to an overall wealth plan. So I created the brand in 1994 and put a trademark on it and really started to focus all of my energies by doing different events. I would host events with for example, Heart and Stroke Foundation, and they were delighted to have an audience where they could share their offerings, their intellectual property, and what heart and stroke disease is all about for women. The symptoms are quite different for women than they are for men. So it was all about generating increased awareness. The other thing that I did was I would charge a nominal amount, 25 or $50, which would then be a charitable donation. And that charitable donation in a wealth plan enhances your bottom line. The more you give, the more impactful it is. But then to build on that, if you're in a situation where you're able to give or you're able to share, then that enhances your self-worth. So the brand came about as health and wealth, net worth and self-worth. And here, 30 years later, 31 years later, there's a huge focus on women's philanthropy and legacy planning because women are stewarding increasing amounts of wealth, both wealth that they are earning, but wealth that they are inheriting with more to come. And so on a total spectrum of possibilities in terms of giving and philanthropy, health and wealth, it's really, really incredible to see how different it is today versus what it was, 31 years ago.
So, what are some of the challenges that women are still facing in terms of stewarding wealth?
I would say the biggest challenge is them not stepping up to it because this is a new reality for women. And it's a really, really powerful reality. And it's kind of overwhelming and a little bit intimidating. No woman wants to step out and prance around and say, oh my goodness, look what I have. Because other women will say, well, who the heck does she think she is? So it's all about owning that opportunity and understanding all of the possibilities and implications and the positive impact that it creates, not just in your own family and friend scenario, but also impactful in the world.
Yeah, it seems like we're still or just beginning to tackle all of these mindset things about money where we just have some ideas about money that aren't quite true, you know. Um, but they're hard to break. Things that are
Exactly.
just really ingrained from childhood.
Right. Well,
Um,
I
yeah.
think I think your phrase just beginning and it's a mindset is spot on. That's exactly what it is.
So in your work, you're really educating
Right.
women how to steward the money, and to build wealth. If there was one thing in that realm that you would want someone to know, what do you think that like the most important thing to know is?
The most important thing, both for your health and your wealth, is to have a trusted advisor. You can't do this stuff yourself. It's like trying to do your own dental work. You have to have a professional. And there's so many professionals who are out there in both of those realms. And if you don't have a trusted advisor, if you don't have a go-to person, then you need to find one. And that's the first order of business. In the wealth category, I'm a certified financial planner. I think I know it's a brand that's in the US. I'm not sure if it's worldwide, but if you do not feel that you have a trusted advisor, then what you do is you go get a second opinion or a third opinion or a fourth opinion. And through that whole process, you will educate yourself to a much higher level because those professionals are in business to serve you well. So you want to make sure that the professional designations are there, that the person has the credibility in that profession. But the most important thing is that that person cares about you and has your back and will steward you so you can steward your wealth exceptionally well. But in doing so, you've got to put all your cards on the table. It's like going to a new doctor for the first time. First thing they do is they take blood work because they've got a read on who you are. And in both of those professions, the most important thing is that they know the client. If you've gone ahead and sold somebody something without knowing that this is not suitable for them, you are at risk of losing your professional designation. So um, back to trusted advisor, professional credibility, but making sure that person has your back. And you'll know whether they do or they don't. After those initial conversations, you'll make a choice, and now you're establishing a whole new relationship.
Mm. So something you said in there, um, there's got to be honesty on both sides.
Right,
So like when you're coming to an advisor, money can be for some people like a very emotional thing that, they don't really want to talk about. Um, so you really have to, I don't know, prepare yourself mentally to really, what you said, lay it all out and be honest
right.
about what you have and what you're working with. And it's such a big step for some people too. And not one that's really, I guess, intuitive because we didn't have that before. We didn't have that
Exactly.
option.
Right. Well, it's like going to a doctor and at some point they'll say, well, get naked. And it's like, oh my God, I really don't want to do this. You really don't want to do that at all. But at the same time, how can that person do a complete analysis of what your scenario is and what your challenges are so that they can give you their very, very best advice? That's really what you want,
So let's say someone, take one scenario, like someone is actually still in debt.
right?
Um, at what point do are we talking about working with a professional financial advisor? Are you working on your debt and waiting until you get to a point where you have things to invest, or can you work with somebody, even before then?
As soon as possible. It's like having a pain in your leg.
Mm-hmm.
How long do you live with a pain in your leg before you seek medical attention? It's no different. The best time to start is right now. And the best thing to say is, I need some help. This is my scenario. I'm not proud of it. I'm certainly not happy about it, but it's keeping me awake at night. It's getting in the way of me doing my best and being my best. And I need some help. And then you say, what do you suggest? And they'll say, okay, well, you know, let's go through your whole scenario. And that's when they'll do a whole summary of, your whole inventory of what your investments are, what the debt is, what your protections are, and then talk about some possibilities and how we can work on alleviating this challenge.
So you mentioned protections, like I'm assuming healthcare. and other insurances and things like that. So that's part of the bigger picture as well.
Right.
Um, is that something that people commonly think of, or is it something that they just kind of,
No,
yeah.
no, not at all. As once you've established a relationship with someone, and a good wealth advisor will take it from the top right at the outset. If I'm going to do a fabulous wealth plan, this is what it is going to look like, and this is what it includes. But if you've only focused on investments, and then the wealth advisor suggests insurance, the client invariably looks at you like, you know what? I thought we were friends. And now you're trying to sell me some insurance. I don't think this is going to be a good idea. Okay, well, let's just talk this through. One of the podcast interviews that I had was with this woman who has several investment real estate holdings in New York. And so we talked it through, and so I mentioned insurance the same way I'm talking to you, and she went, insurance? No, I said, well, tell me about those investment properties. Do you have insurance on them? Well, of course she has insurance on them. So your life is your greatest asset. Why would you not have insurance? And what happens with insurance? Well, the best time to buy insurance is when you're young, because that's when you're the healthiest and that's when it's the least expensive. But often people get to their 50s, 60s, or 70s and say, you know what? I don't need this life insurance anymore because I don't need replacement income. And I say, hold your horses, because that then can become your philanthropic statement. And when you have a life insurance policy that pays out when you die and your whole estate is reconciled, you would not believe the power of that insurance, regardless of who you've designated the insurance to go to. So insurance is really, really powerful. But, most people, for example, going back to the person in debt, I've only got X amount of dollars, and you're now suggesting that I take some of my income and direct it to insurance rather than paying down the debt. Yes, that's what I'm suggesting. Okay, why is that something that I should do? Well, let's just imagine something critical illness happens. You've still got this debt and you have no coverage. Now what? Now you can't work to earn money, or you can only work part-time, and the debt is increasing. So insurance is a really, really crucial component as part of a whole wealth plan.
So the whole plan is really kind of a stabilizing structure that you can
Right,
build off from. Even when
exactly.
you are in debt, it's something that it helps you build and accrue. And it's interesting because a lot of people don't think about it. Like you said, when you're in debt, you don't necessarily, you've got pennies and you're like paycheck to paycheck, and it can be hard to get out of. But it's those little pieces that go into the structure of it that can help you get out of that and then start to build, right?
Exactly. 100%, 100%. And when I had clients, now I don't have clients. My business is Women Worth and Wellness and all of the things that I'm doing with that business. But when I had clients, I said it is most important that those clients understand what their overall wealth plan is and why it is the way it is. Now, that doesn't mean that it won't change 6 months from now when we do a review. Maybe we're going to consider doing something completely different or somewhat different. You're probably not going to do a major whatever. Um, but the most important thing is that clients understand what their scenario is, what their coverage is, what their investment plan is, so that when you wake up in the middle of the night, when the market has gone down significantly, you don't panic. You don't panic because you understand that that's a reality, and you know that your wealth plan has taken all of that into consideration, so that you're there for the good times and you're there for the challenging times.
Mm.
Most important. But it's a wealth advisor that can help you with all of that rather than trying to figure it all out for yourself, because unless you're a wealth advisor yourself, you won't understand all of those bits and pieces of that whole scenario.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree completely because it's like maybe you get this basic understanding of finances when you're in high school, and you learn to adapt to what you see sort of in the media, but you don't necessarily get the big picture, or there's things you just don't know. Like investing, sure, I know where to put this money, but I don't necessarily know what the best things to do are, for instance. So yeah, it's very interesting, how women in particular also shy away from it so much.
Right,
Um, so with women worth and wellness, you're really pushing the envelope with education.
right.
Yeah.
And the worth is all about you're worthy. You are
Mhm.
worthy. Your life is your greatest asset. And you're worthy of working with professionals and asking them questions that you don't have answers to, that you do not need to shy away. I think this is a part of the reason why women don't step up to this situation is because they're embarrassed that they don't know more.
Mhm.
And being embarrassed means that you're asking stupid questions. Well, forget it. Ask the stupid question and keep on asking stupid questions because it's a great way to find out, how receptive you are to this wealth advisor who's answering those questions, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah, it's really like just asking the questions is empowering. There's
Right.
no need to be embarrassed about it.
No, you're worthy. You are worthy. If you're worthy, then you've got a right to seek out professionals and you've got a right to be discerning and ask them careful questions that you want answers to. And if you don't like their answers or you don't like their attitude, you do not need to work with that person. You go on to next. It's like next, like another frisbee toss. Yep, next.
So women also, I feel like, have kind of a block sometimes mentally about even earning money, um, or earning over a certain amount of money. And that connects to that worthiness piece too. I feel like, oh, they might have it in their head, like I'm only safe if I make this much amount of money. And if I go over, then I'm going to expose myself to some sort of
Ridicule.
bad. And do you ever get people like coming to you, or did you, when you had clients, did you ever have people that were sort of stuck in that mode?
Definitely. The other scenario that's even more challenging is assuming your partner is male,
Mhm.
what happens if you're earning more than your partner? How do you deal with that? That's often something that's a real showstopper. Well, so what? Let's be happy for everybody because it's household income. And again, what's your attitude? You probably have kids. You may have kids. If you have kids, then is this something that you're hiding from them, or is this something that you're proud of, or how are you dealing with that? And again, I think it really depends on that relationship that this couple has and how healthy that relationship is for this person, for the female to be earning more than the male. Maybe that's something that he's very proud of. Maybe he's her number one champion.
Mhm.
Well, isn't that terrific? You can be a role model. And if you've got daughters, and it's like, you know what? This is okay. But what's really important is that you're not blatantly boasting about this scenario. That's when it can become toxic because it's like this person is less than because he's earning less than. No, that's not true at all. That's not true at all. We know that there are ebbs and flows in industries and roles and bosses and all those kinds of things. So, maybe she got a promotion that she hadn't anticipated. Well, isn't that terrific? I mean, good for her. Good for her.
Mhm.
And the best thing that he can be is a huge champion for her.
Right, right. It feels like though, like we think about money as not necessarily being a relationship thing, but it's a huge relationship,
Of course, it is definitely
just to the money itself and to the people in your life.
right. But again, honesty is the cornerstone. Honesty is absolutely the cornerstone. I mean, those two came together as a couple to begin with for whatever attracted one to the other. But now you're building on that initial honesty to keep on being honest. And, if the female is thinking that this is going to be disruptive to him, rather than hiding the conversation, have the conversation. How do you feel about this? Truly, honestly. I'm a Rotarian and we have the four-way test. The number one question, is it the truth?
Mm.
Is it the truth? So be honest and tell the truth and work it through. Work it through.
So important and so difficult for people.
It is. It is because nobody likes bad conversations to happen. Nobody wants to raise something and with an honest attitude and have it turn into a nightmare. So it requires some careful thinking and a careful approach. But the longer you live with it, the more it becomes like a cancer. It just wears away at you.
Yeah, so true. It takes some serious vulnerability and willingness to have that conversation. But it's like when you do come to it from a point of truth and honesty, the conversation I find goes much better.
Correct. And I think your word vulnerability is so powerful because lots of people don't start the conversation because they know they're vulnerable and they don't want to expose that vulnerability. So they keep it to themselves. When in fact, you know, sometimes the best thing to your point is get it out there, like work it through. And maybe that's when you do need a therapist. There are lots of therapists around, another professional, another trusted advisor to recruit to help with those kinds of conversations because I think there are a lot of those scenarios out there that are just not pleasant. And so again, seek help. I need help. I need help. I'm trying to figure this out for myself and it's not working. I need help, or we need help.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if somebody wanted to connect with you, where would they find you and the Women Worth and Wellness?
They can send me an email. I'm 24/7. If I don't answer the night before, I'll answer first thing in the morning. But they can just send me an email and just say, do you know anybody? Or this is my scenario or whatever. And it's just Nancy at womenworthwellness.com. Nancy, womenworthwellness.com or at womenworthwellness.com. So they can send me a quick email and say, I loved your point about whatever, but this is something that's on my mind. What would you recommend? And I'll answer and redirect and whatever. No
I, that,
charge, no problem.
that's amazing because I noticed I was looking at your website earlier and it says that you're a connector and that is such a valuable thing because you're someone who can connect people to someone that they
Right,
need. Even if it's not
right.
you, you can find someone for them.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly. But the
Such a
first
valuable
most
thing.
important is that they ask for help, that they put their situation out there, put the question out there, put the
Mhm.
question out there, and then see what comes of it.
Amazing. Thank you for having this conversation with me today. This is one of those things that is so important to spread the message on.
Well, it is definitely a chaotic world, and we all want to be well. We just don't want to hide under the bed. We want to get up and get out there and to live our best lives. And so, being healthy is the first order of business, but obviously having enough money that's stewarded well to support what we want is crucial as well. So, hence the Women Worth and Wellness, and everybody's worthy. Every woman is worthy. You are worthy. Start now, go for it.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Cheryl. My pleasure.
Over the past few years, I've had multiple realizations about my own relationship with money, and one of the most potent ones has been this. Looking back over different jobs and careers, I noticed that I often unconsciously capped how much I felt allowed to make. On the surface, it looked like career choices or circumstances, and some of it certainly was. I never felt 100% passionate about what I was doing. I was more driven by the need to do a good job and earn a living with something that I was at least good at. But underneath all of that, Many of my choices were driven by a need for safety and having low self worth. I had unconscious beliefs that earning more would expose me to failure and that I wasn't truly worthy of being in roles with more responsibility or exposure. While I wouldn't be here talking to you today if I hadn't started making a shift away from these beliefs, they're ideas that I continue to set down, let go of, and shift to this day. Deconditioning is an ongoing process. Today's talk with Nancy about worthiness and wealth, I think, offers another reminder of just how powerful these hidden beliefs can be and how much they shape the choices we make without us even realizing it. Out of everything we talked about today, these takeaways feel like new, truer beliefs that we might hold about money and worth. Number one, health and wealth are inseparable. Your financial well being supports your health, and your health is the foundation for everything else. Number two, it's okay to ask for help. Just as we have trusted health professionals, it's okay to have trusted advisors to guide our finances. Number three, honesty is the cornerstone. Whether with yourself, a partner, or an advisor, being truthful is what opens the door to real solutions. And number four, you are worthy. Asking questions, seeking guidance, and taking ownership of your resources is an act of self worth. So, what about you? What are you choosing to believe about your relationship with money and worth? Here are a few other questions you might wish to reflect on. What messages about money did you grow up with, and how are they still shaping your choices today? Where do you see money and health intersecting in your own life, whether it's stress, security, or access to care? Do you have trusted people or advisors you can lean on, both for health and financial guidance? If not, what small steps could you take to start building that support? And finally, how might embracing your own worth, your inherent value, change the way you make decisions about money, health, or well being? Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. You can also find more about each episode on the website at wellnessinachaoticworld.com. Or you can find me on Instagram and Facebook, where we can chat more about living well in this stressed out, chaotic world. And as always, I hope you have a healthy, happy week. If today's episode resonated with you, our private Facebook group is a great place to dive deeper, ask questions, and share wins with people who understand. It's free, it's private, and you can join by clicking the link in the episode description. I hope to see you there.